Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? Kyle back with the Fantasy Headliners. If you're watching this video right now, that probably means you're still alive in your fantasy league's playoffs. Now, we're heading into week 16. We've got 3 weeks of the season left, and today's waiver wire video is going to be short, sweet, and to the point because unlike the regular season where we're looking for guys that maybe we can grab and use later on and things of that nature, we are only looking at potential streaming options in this video. Guys that we might actually be able to use this week in our lineup if we're still alive and heading towards a fantasy football championship. Hit the like button for me. Subscribe if you're new here. Let's hop right into it. And my first player up for running backs this week is actually going to be my fan tracks first up, and that's Deion Jackson from Indianapolis. It sounds like it's a high ankle sprain for Jonathan Taylor. I mean, this guy is close to being done for the year, and unfortunately probably being the biggest bust of the year as well, which coming off the season he had last year is so disappointing to see from him. Now, if you're sitting here thinking, Kyle, but Zach Moss had more carries, I think I might try and pick up him. That's okay. You're more than welcome to if you like to lose, because that's what Zach Moss is a loser. Listen, NFL players, I hate saying NFL players suck. You're in the NFL. You're probably pretty decent in football. Hell, you're a lot better than me. Zach Moss is better than me, 100%. He's not a good NFL running back. Never has been, never was coming out of college. He was fool's gold for anybody that thought he was going to become something that he's not. Deion Jackson should be the guy up going against the Los Angeles Chargers. Better all-around running back. We'll probably see some targets in the passing game, and I assume we'll also see him on a majority of the touches out of the backfield as well. If you're a JT owner and you're still alive somehow, or if you're looking for a little bit of a boost, Deion Jackson is going to be your guy. Salvon Ahmed. The reason I'm bringing Salvon Ahmed out, Jeff Wilson inactive last week, and we know Raheem Mostert is not the poster boy when it comes to healthy seasons. So if you're a Raheem Mostert owner and you're alive in the playoffs, I would recommend, if you have room, just to hold on to Salvon Ahmed. If Jeff Wilson ends up being inactive again this week, maybe grab him up and just stash him on your bench in case something were to happen. Then maybe we put ourselves in a position where he has to be used. Again, probably not using him, but more of just a safety backup. Tyler Algier going up against Buffalo. This one's tough for me because Desmond Ridder, clearly while he's under center, they're going to work him along slowly. And we kind of saw that this past week, right? I mean, he was not a guy that's going to go out and throw the ball 30, 35 times a game, which Atlanta was never going to do anyway because that's not Atlanta's game. Both Tyler Algier and Cordero Patterson could see 11, 12, 13, 15 rushing attempts per game for a total of 30 to 35 total for this team. It is extremely possible. Going up against Buffalo, extremely low ceiling. But again, if you find yourself in a situation after he goes for 139 yards on 17 attempts and a touchdown last week, if you're finding yourself in a situation where you need to flex a deeper roster, you just need somebody to put in there because you're dealing with injuries or whatever it may be, Tyler Algier is going to get the carries. It's just, what is he going to do with the carries that worries me. Royce Freeman for Houston. I mean, he ended up being the lead back with no Dameon Pierce. If you're a Dameon Pierce owner and you have an open spot that you need to fill, Royce Freeman could end up being the lead back there for the last couple of weeks of the season here. Jerick McKinnon, I am going to throw his name back out there. He's probably too much owned at this point. I brought him up the last couple of weeks. He's got touchdowns in 3 straight games. He is utilized, right? As a flex option, I believe he's a guy that we can put out there. I'm not really sitting top 12 to 15 backs for him right now at this point. Unless it's a PPR league, then at that point, his ceiling goes a little bit higher, but I mean, really, that touchdown at the end of the game is really what kind of propelled him from being a good start to a great start last week. How many times is he going to get that second touchdown? How many times is he going to get that rushing touchdown? Isaiah Pacheco has not done anything to lose rushing attempts, and Jerick McKinnon's not a lead back type of player. So we're not going to see Jerick McKinnon get 25 carries a game, or heck, even probably 25 touches a game. So really for him, it's about where does that upside lie, because the upside is always going to be a little bit bit lower unless he does score the touchdowns. He could be from going an okay to a great start literally in a couple of touches. And that's really where do we start Jerick McKinnon, and that's, you know, who do we have that we play and we don't play over him. If he is still available for some reason though, he's going to be a guy that we need to go ahead and snatch up. Unfortunately though, I feel like he's probably too widely owned at this point. And Jordan Mason for San Francisco, if you're a CMC owner, grab Jordan Mason. Own a guy that could end up getting more touches over the next couple of weeks. Because, I mean, the West is wrapped up at this point. San Francisco has won the West. They're not going to win. They're not going to get the bye. It's just not going to happen. Right now, it's kind of playing for that second, third, fourth position that they want within the playoffs. For San Francisco, really at this point, it's about the long run. Are they really worried about who they're going to face in the first round? Maybe, maybe not. For me personally, it's about keeping CMC healthy, because I'm sure they feel like if CMC and Debo are healthy, which he should be in a couple of weeks, they can play with anybody. And that's going to be the name of the game. Keep the team healthy for realistically a team that's had trouble with that in the past. What about the wide receiver position? Marquise Goodwin is going to be a guy that we need to go ahead and grab this week, especially with no Tyler Lockett going up the Kansas City Chiefs, who will allow the fourth most fantasy points to wide receivers. A big play guy like Marquise Goodwin, who in the past going up against defenses with somebody has missed, has been a pretty decent start this season. Marquise Goodwin, he gets Kansas City, had 11 targets the past couple of weeks. He's going to be the wide receiver too. Tyler Lockett is going to miss 1 to 2 games, it sounds like. So he's not only a guy that we pick up and start this week, but maybe we get to start him next week as well. But Marquise Goodwin, if I had to do like a 1B of my fan tracks first up of the week, Marquise Goodwin would be my 1B to Deion Jackson. Juwan Jennings for San Francisco. I mean, I just mentioned it a minute ago, right, with CMC. Probably the same thing with George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk. It's going to be about managing these guys the rest of the season and making sure we don't get anyone hurt and getting guys on and off the field. Juwan Jennings, until Debo comes back, is going to be a solidified wide receiver too in that lineup. Donovan Peoples-Jones, another touchdown. Yes, the yards weren't there, not a huge outstanding day, still scored that touchdown. I mean, this matchup against New Orleans could bring a little bit of upside for Donovan Peoples-Jones this week. DJ Chark, he had a tough matchup against New York last week. We knew it. I mentioned it when we picked him up last week that you wouldn't be able to start him. Carolina presents a kind of a tough challenge in their own right as well, but not nearly as tough as the New York Jets. DJ Chark could be back to being like a wide receiver 3 type of start for me this week. Chris Moore, he had a pretty quiet week this past week, which was interesting to see going up against Kansas City and not having the top 2 wide receivers on the team. So I found that to be a little bit of a surprise. But we go from facing Kansas City to an even better matchup in Tennessee, who has the worst pass defense in the league. If there's no Brandon Cooks and there's no Nico Collins, Chris Moore definitely going to be a start for me again this week. And how in the heck is Zay Jones still available in less than 70% of fantasy league? It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy to see that he's still not 70% owned in a majority of fantasy platforms. It's crazy that nobody has been utilizing Zay Jones, except for probably you all, because if you've been watching these videos, you know that I've been bullish on Zay Jones and saying, hey, this is a guy we are playing every single week. And he's been a guy that is single-handedly winning you some weeks here lately. Isaiah Hodgins for the New York Giants. They're going to get Minnesota. Minnesota probably actually should have given up a lot more points to wide receivers than they did last week. But Jeff Saturday and the Colts decided they didn't want to put the pedal to the metal. They wanted to play it safe. And look what that got you. Look what it got you. Don't do that. Minnesota going up against, New York Jets going up against Minnesota. He seems to be the wide receiver 1 right now for the Giants. Could end up seeing a touchdown again this week in a pretty favorable matchup for him that he'll see some targets in. Jahan Dotson for Washington. He's got touchdowns in his last 2 games. They're going to get San Francisco, so I hate this matchup, but this is definitely a guy that if we grab him right now, maybe we don't start him this week, but maybe we can start him like in championship week or semifinals week. And then Traylon Burks for Tennessee. Don't forget, they're going up against Houston. If he gets cleared this week, he's definitely a big play, big touchdown type of guy for you that you should be taking a look at owning. Let's move on to the tight end position. And no, Jeff Driscoll isn't listed here. The amount of Jeff Driscoll questions last week was super disappointing because people were like, oh, he's a money. You put him in cash money, lock it up. Why aren't we starting Jeff Driscoll? Jeff Driscoll's going to dominate the week. He got you less than 3 fantasy points, ladies and gentlemen. If you listen to me, you didn't play him. So if you didn't, congratulations on not getting sucked up into the DFS mindset where people throw out all this garbage information because I don't tell you what type of platforms you're talking about. It was always a bad play. Noah Fant for Seattle going up against Kansas City with no Lockett. Noah Fant is going to be touchdown dependent, but touchdowns are going to be available to him as well. Dawson Knox is really on a hot streak right now. Touchdowns in back-to-back games, 15 total targets the last couple of weeks. Could be heating up, but the Bears allow the second fewest fantasy points to tight ends. I don't really know if that translates this week or not. Juwan Johnson, 2 more touchdowns. One of the highest upside plays that you could possibly have at the tight end position right now. This is a guy that luckily, Headliner Nation, I've been talking about since well back before he started to break out. So this is a guy with Juwan Johnson that if you own him, we're going to be starting him unless you own one of the top guys. And quite honestly, if you're looking for upside right now, if you own Mark Andrews, Juwan Johnson probably has more upside than Mark Andrews. In fact, Juwan Johnson may have more upside than any tight end available right now outside of Travis Kelce. So if that's what you're looking for at the position, he's going to be your guy the rest of the playoffs. Evan Ingram going up against the New York Jets. He did end up having a total letdown against Dallas. A pretty reasonable day. Not anything to get too excited about, but still a decent day. Anyway, and Chiggy Oko, I mean, you can put the guy down for 4 to 6 fantasy points every single day. A lot of people really want to start him right now, and I get it, and I do as well. I love Chiggy Oko, and he's going to be a guy that's going to be a potential tight end breakout for me next week, okay? Lock that, or not next week, but next season. So lock in a lot of information on him for next year. I think it's going to happen. But for this season, the touchdown upside just isn't quite there yet, which makes him an okay start because he's going to get you 40 to 60 yards. But without the touchdown, he's not going to be a guy that's going to win you a lot of weeks. He just probably won't lose you the week. And now the quarterback position. Let's talk about some streamers this week. Sam Darnold going up against Detroit is going to be number 1. You know, Zach Wilson looked all right last week against Detroit, and Detroit's defense is playing well, but they give up big chunks. They give up big plays. Again, it is really a bend, don't break defense. They're going to get some takeaways. They're going to get some sacks. They're going to keep you from scoring every single time, but they're going to give up some big plays in the process. Sam Darnold could be a guy that maybe he won't win you the week, but he's also going to have the opportunity to run for a touchdown, which is something we've seen since he's gone to Carolina. He scores some touchdowns on the ground. When they get like in the 5-yard line, they do some things with him that allow him to get into the end zone. Daniel Jones going up against Minnesota. I mean, I mentioned it earlier. Minnesota should have given up a lot of more fantasy points last week than what they did, and that's because Indianapolis just took their foot off the pedal. I don't think New York is going to do that this week. They are playing for their playoff life. Davis Mills for Houston going up against Tennessee. Again, Davis Mills hasn't looked that bad the last couple of weeks. They get the worst pass defense in the NFL now in Tennessee. Absolutely a great opportunity for him this week to have a big week. I mean, I'm talking 2 to 3 touchdowns type of week. Okay, maybe not that big, but I like Davis Mills this week. Brock Purdy, I mean, again, with the way he's playing, we've got to continue to throw him out here. And now they're going to be going up against the Washington Commanders. I mean, this week, as Detroit Lions fans, we're rooting for San Francisco and Minnesota because the Giants and Washington are the 2 teams in front of us that we need out. We need to get them out. Defensive special teams, 4 people that I think could end up seeing a decent streaming option for you this week. Tampa Bay against Arizona, Colt McCoy in the concussion protocol, so Tampa Bay might be getting Arizona on their 3rd-string quarterback. Jacksonville going up against the New York Jets. I mean, again, I mentioned it, Zach Wilson looked okay against Detroit, but if he's the starter this week again on a short week, considering that they wouldn't clear Mike White for last week, I don't know if they'll clear him before Thursday Night Football now. Jacksonville has an opportunity to create some turnovers, and that's where points start to add up for defenses. Las Vegas going up against Pittsburgh. I don't know who the quarterback's going to be for Pittsburgh, but if it's not Kenny Pickett, it's always a suboptimal offensive play at that point. And the LA Rams going up against Denver. I mean, this call is just too easy if they're still out there and available because Denver's offense continues to look like garbage. Now, some players that we're talking about dropping this week, I'm not putting anybody on the list. Just like we've done in the past, if you've got somebody on your team that you're interested in dropping, keep your comments down below. Short, sweet, and to the point. Dropping player X, adding player Y, and I will respond yes or no. And I will let you know whether or not, because at this point, it doesn't really matter who we're dropping and who we're not dropping if we really don't plan on utilizing them over the next couple of weeks. It's go time. It's crunch time. We're making the best lineup decisions on a week-to-week basis, because if we survive and advance, that's all we need, baby. Make sure you hit that like button for me. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below with your ad drop questions. I'm going to get out of here for right now, though. I'll catch y'all in the videos the rest of the week. Peace out. Stay safe and healthy, and I'll catch y'all on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.